Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Address-Based Layout Randomization. As always, this is brought to you by BHIS Security Operations Center, Antisyphon Infosec Training, and today we have a particularly cool group of people from Secure Ideas. Now, just so you know, Secure Ideas is a company that I definitely consider to be a sister organization to Black Hills Information Security. Kevin Johnson and I started our companies at roughly the same time.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot of the same trials and tribulations. We've laughed together, cried together, cried together, cried together. And then somehow we managed to still be in business all these years later. It's my great honor and my privilege to basically welcome Kevin Johnson and Jason to the show from Secure Ideas. And by the way, they do outstanding web application penetration testing. Kevin Johnson has actually taught a number of people at Black Hills Information Security, network penetration testing, security assessment services. They have all kinds of cool stuff. But today, we're not going to be talking that much about business stuff. We're going to be talking a little bit about the industry, training, rules, and all kinds of stuff that we think is pretty critical. So Kevin Johnson, thank you so much for joining. Jason, welcome. Let's go ahead and let's jump into it. What do you guys have for us today?
I like how I have a last name.
I'm afraid of butchering his last name, like Gilliam.
I know
that is no. You got to write the first
time.
Gilliam first.
Gilliam. There's so many ways to mispronounce it, so that's why
is exactly why I knew you weren't saying it.
Yeah,
so I called you out. I knew it was,
calls me out on it.
At first, I thought, wait. Does he not know Jason's last
name?
No,
I just don't know how to pronounce it. So I just avoid it.
He doesn't know how to pronounce it.
You know I suck at this. Like, you know
why. Look, I'm the guy that gets Tim Medin's name wrong every time I say it.
For years. And George is another one. I always, there was a bunch of us at the instructor table that would refer to him as Jorge. And then, and then that was bad. That was bad.
Yes, that one was bad. There was an implied. Now, I will say, I'm bad at names. I'm awful at names.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been one of my biggest problems with being an instructor, being a consultant, going out and meeting people Jason and I both leave tomorrow for DEF CON. Yes.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate your sympathy. And so we're going to go to Vegas in August. It'll be amazing.
Rooms are cheap.
Here's what I don't understand. Everybody wears black.
I know, right? And they smell. They smell like they're wearing black in Vegas during August.
I forgot about that part.
You're like, I forgot about that part.
Yeah. No, I haven't forgotten. President Roosevelt had a trick for remembering people's name. Okay, I'll look that up. I've seen some ideas of how to do it, and they've never worked for me. I still remember.
Is that the trick? Is looking up the trick?
Yeah, that's the trick. You look up the person's name. That's why I got Google Glass. You remember the Google Glass, the nerdy? It had a camera on the side, and I got it because I wanted to write software that it would look up people's faces, and names off of social media, and then put it on my screen so I could see it. So, here's what I wanted to talk about today. I threw it out there as an idea. I know I realized after I threw out the idea that we're supposed to do some hardcore technical demo. I'm a CEO now. I don't have hardcore technical demos. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I have my CISP, so I don't have any hardcore.
You got that.
So one of the things, Jason and I have been talking about this for a while. We've talked about a bunch of people. Ask them their name. Yeah. I know your first name. I couldn't remember your last name. Justin, that's awesome. I didn't remember last name was Furrow. And so...
Jeez, Justin's like, just straight up freaking lie to people.
It's okay. There's no problem. Here's the problem with that. I don't lie well. If I lie to you, you will know I'm lying to you. It's just the way it works.
He's right about that. Yes.
Unless I've been hired to social engineer you. And then for some reason I can do that. I don't know why. So we've been talking about this for a while, and we're trying to push it. And I thought this would be the right place to really get public knowledge about it and get people's opinions, thoughts, and help. And that is this. I have been involved in IT. This is where I admit I'm old. I got my first job professionally in 1991. I was building a network and writing code for a company. Now, what should really scare the crap out of you is the code I was writing was for control systems for the power grid.
For which state?
No, don't.
No. Sure. And Jason has seen my code. He knows I'm not good at it. And the best part is there are still systems running that code as of like 3 years ago. Yes. And I was not good at coding when I was 18. And I will tell you that it probably did not age well. But I started in IT in 1991. And it was not Texas. It was a manufacturer. And, so it was me. I have been a registered Republican at some point in my life. So and my understanding is it's their fault about Texas. But when I got into the field, when I decided I wanted to get into security, the way I got into security was reading books, talking to people, trying to figure out what was going on, trying to find people who would help me. I actually took a SANS course. It's where I met Mike Poore. I went and took, oh God, John, I'm forgetting the number of the class, 503.
Yeah, 503.
503 from Mike Poore. Met him, got talking to him. A couple years later, joined him in Guardians. But what I realized was I am only where I am because of other people. I started a company by accident. We got stuff running. People seem to like us. They keep on us. But I was smart enough to surround myself with people who are smarter than I am and have people like John who could help, right? Like John's statement about we started our companies about the same time. We cried together. We laughed together. We cried, screamed, ranted. The number of times I have said to John, you will not believe the shit I had to say to people today. And,
or the conversations years ago that were like I don't know how I'm going to survive the next 45 days. Like we had multiple conversations about, not being able to feed people. So no, absolutely.
There's a whole payroll thing that staff members demand every 2 weeks. It's just ridiculous. But what I realized is that I learned security through persistence and through the fact that people were willing to help you. And looking around, I have found that we have a goodness about the internet, and that we have a large information that's now easily available to us. I will say that the internet has proven that the statement, the accessibility of data will make people smarter, to be wrong.
Yeah.
Right. But we have lots and lots of data. But here's the problem that I'm finding. It's really hard for people to determine if something learning is, or if what they're learning is right for what their goal is.
Oh,
right?
and I got to throw in a narrative because Kevin and I have seen this for years. How many people, Kevin, whenever we're talking to them, they're like, so you're getting started in security. Yeah. What are you studying? I'm learning how to write exploits and write 0 days. And you're like, oh God, no. Or they're like, I'm going to learn how to reverse engineer malware. And you're like, so TCP IP operating systems. No. I'm learning.
No, I don't need those.
No. I'm learning about how to reverse engineer malware. And I'm like, but you don't know operating system calls. You don't understand TCP. Okay. But that's because that's what we advertise, right? There's so many people in the industry that they think that's what they've got to learn.
Well, I mean, I'm going to pick on a specific one here, but OSCP. And I want to be very clear. The offensive security people, they're great people. They've done an amazing thing. But the majority of what they do is focused on writing 0 days and exploitation and their class, right? Which I hesitate to call it a class because.
Now, to their defense, I have heard, and maybe some people that are listening on the live stream can answer this, that they've taken a few steps back from that exploit dev thing, but that's relatively recent, Kevin.
Right.
So
and I want to be clear, that's fine. There's a place for that.
there is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So here's what Jason and I have talked about and we've come up with. We believe that information needs to be free. Because that's the other problem, right? Costs are ridiculously expensive. I don't know, let's ignore Antisyphon, the black sheep of the training environment that has just said, fuck it, we're going to do it as affordably as possible. Oh, by the way, is this an explicit theme?
We're on HBO.
It's okay.
I mean, we're not Game of Thrones here, right?
Yeah.
So, ignoring Antisyphon, because I'm biased. I love what you've done there. I love the fact that we're able to be part of it now. But if we ignore that, the vast majority of training falls into two categories. One, ridiculously expensive that you're going to need a corporate budget or a loan to do, or really inexpensive, no way to determine quality, right?
Because there's a lot of them, right?
Exactly, right? And don't get me wrong, there's great quality. I'll name one right now that falls kind of in that bottom description, that lower cost, everything else like that. Tim Tomes. What is it? Practical Application Security Training? Isn't that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tim Tomes' course is one of the best courses out there. Right?
Well, and YouTube videos, like you got John Hammond, you got IPSEC, Cyber Mentor. Like there's a lot of
Jeremy Druin putting stuff out, right? Really great stuff. But here's the problem. Like we said, one, you don't know if it's quality. Two, you don't know if it's the right quality for you. So what we've come up with, and I'm excited about the prequels coming up in the next 2 weeks. So you're not the only person. And so here's what we've come up with. Long, drawn-out intro to this. Tim Tomes, Tomes.
Landmaster 53 on Twitter.
Landmaster 53. Isn't it practicesec.com?
It might be. I'm not sure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, great stuff. We'll get a link out to you. White Cyberduck. That is an interesting name. But
been around for a while.
Yeah, it is PracticeSec. Got it. Cool. Thank you. OpenSBK, the open security body of knowledge. And here's the idea. And I want to be very clear. Jason and I started this up. John has signed on to help out. This is not a Secure Ideas project. This is not a Black Hills project. This is not even an Antisyphon project. We are not trying to come up with a new competition for training. The idea behind OpenSBK is to have a body of knowledge, basically a bunch of pieces, right? But it's going to start with, here are kind of not really a Wikipedia. Let me explain it a little bit. The idea is to have guidance of what entails a job. What are think bullet points. What are the bullet points? That's an interesting video for John.
I think there's something seriously wrong with the way that this is working out right now. I'm going to go back to my camera right now. There we go. That didn't work. Let me keep talking. I'm going to try to get this to work.
The idea is to have it be, what are the topics that you need to know? So I want to be a pen tester. I want to be a malware reverse engineer. I want to be a SOC analyst. I want to be, and I don't mean tube SOC. I mean, right? God, that website's awful. That was just, we threw it up there. So the idea is to give you I want to do this. Let's give you a description of that job. Let's give you a standard definition of what it means, and then give you a set of topics that you should know to be, and for the lack of a better term, I want to be an apprentice SOC analyst. I want to be a journeyman SOC analyst, whatever, right? And then that way, when you're evaluating training that you're taking, whether it's a full-blown class, whether it's a set of YouTube videos, whatever, you can actually focus on the topics and see, okay, John's got this great class that is, active defense. what the hell does that mean? This is what it means. And if I go look and say, I want to be part of a threat hunting team or active defense team, whatever, here are the 20 things I need to know to be an intro person to that. Here are the 30 things I need to know additionally to be competent at it. Here's the 30 more things I need to know to be an expert. And again,
sort of a build your own career path type of thing.
Yep.
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to build out. And we want to build out bunches of pieces of it. The original piece that we've started is, and I'm trying to say this correctly because I feel like there's an easy way to screw up how I say this. The penetration testing execution standard was a great idea when it started. It was founded very great. It was awesome, right? And it hasn't been updated in a while. So we have pulled the contents of that website, the markdown files, and we've pulled them into a GitHub repo with the hope of being able to work with people and update them to the modern times. We want to build out that matrix. Yes, we are using the NICE framework from as one of the frameworks that we're going to build this upon, right? But what I find with NICE, which I hate saying because it's just weird. I always feel like I'm saying it wrong. And I assume, by the way, Robert, that you mean NIST's nice, not that it sounds nice. I get the pun.
I hope that's what he meant.
I hope it was a pun, right? Know how to tell something's a dad joke? It's apparent. But I want to point out, John, you asked me to do this. And,
I know. This is all my fault.
He's regretting it already.
So that's what we're talking about. That's what we want to do. We want to build this out. And the goal here is we want to get as many people as possible helping pull this together. Now, I have worked in open source, run open source projects for decades, literally decades. Building people to help is hard, right? And so what I want to throw out there is the goal here is to get as much stuff together. So it already exists. That's interesting. It was written by @large Cardinal.
What's this?
So Stuart Smiles says that the body of knowledge already exists,
which is fine. You know what? If there's other bodies of knowledge, that's great. It's like Stuart. It'd be like, well, there's already a pen testing class. Why do you need another one? If you're looking at these different things will resonate with different groups of people, right? So rather than looking at it from the perspective of it's already done, this is just another way of looking at it. And for a lot of the people that are getting started in the industry, it's all about finding their career path. And everybody's career path is going to be different. And we're just trying to give career paths that are based upon our impressions of what we think a good career path is. And I'm absolutely certain in the UK, if they have one, that's awesome. Like Kevin was talking about the NICE framework. That's another one. That's great. Yep. But literally, this is going to be put together by, honestly, people that have been in the industry a really long time on the front lines, have been doing offensive security. And ultimately, I think that gets to the problem with a lot of the frameworks that are out there. And not just frameworks. Like, seriously, if you look at Center for Internet Security, you look at NIST 853, you look at a lot of audit and compliance standards. I'm going to pick on PCI because why the hell not? A lot of these are things that are developed by people that aren't on the front lines, that aren't actually doing the day-to-day grudge of security. And there's a little bit of detachment that exists. And one of the reasons why we created P-tests long time ago was because we were starting to see that disconnect. So you can look at this as there's another framework, and that's great. This is just another augmented framework. I don't look at it as a competition. I look at it as a complement, and I look at it as choose your own adventure. If somebody wants to move and do, what is it, UKNCSC?
Yeah, so I'm actually there at their website, the ncsc.gov.uk. They have a CyBOK, CYBOK, and I'll look at that later.
Cool. Just different paths.
I will throw out there in answer to the questions that I'm seeing, right? Justin, you're absolutely right that a lot of the breaking into cybersecurity content pushes people toward the SOC. And here's what I've always thought that was like. How many people here remember back in the 90s when the MCSE was the thing to do? And I know not all of you are old enough to remember the 90s, but when
I only go back to 96. That's it.
hey, Ryan, shut up. And, I go back to 73.
No,
so
I'm wrong. 93. No.
But if you remember back to when the MCSE was like the thing, I was going to get my MCP, I'm going to then get my MCSE, whatever.
CCNE. Yep.
Oh God, the CCNA, the CNA. That much of that breaking into IT was to push you to a help desk position. And I feel like SOC positions have gotten to the same place. People would get into the help desk, and the idea was always presented as you'll be a help desk technician, you'll be a level 1 tech, then you'll move to level 2, then you'll move to level 3, and then you know what we'll do? We'll move you into IT proper, right? Because help desk was always seen as not IT proper, and you'll be an admin or a developer, and this will be your career path.
I always wondered, does that actually work for people?
I know very few people that actually worked that way.
Most of the people that end up in SOCs are actually moving into MSPs. Whenever we have people moving in, the majority of jobs are SOC jobs that are out there, but like a lot of the jobs in the industry right now, they demand, 23 years of experience.
Yeah.
And, they developed in COBOL and they expect them to be 23 years old. I don't know. It's weird. But no, we do see a lot of people that are moving into SOC, and there's a lot of people that are moving into MSP roles.
Yeah. But you see very few people relatively moving from a SOC position to a pen test position or a reverse engineering position. It happens more than the help desk, right? But I think Justin's comment about how do I get into cybersecurity as something other than a SOC analyst, his example was a competent cloud security engineer. Thank you for putting competent at the beginning of that.
I like that. That's good.
Right. That is absolutely a good thing. And then somebody else, I apologize. I'm not going to try to pronounce Nurki Nix. Okay. I did try to pronounce it. Is any regard to what industry somebody is moving from? And my answer is no. I don't care what industry you come from. I think that there are industries that may help you, right? Like if you were a developer and you want to move into application security or,
it's a natural transition right there.
That's a natural transition. It's an easier transition than if you were a chef and then decided to become a pen tester. And I use that example on purpose because we actually have a consultant that was a chef for a while, and then she became a pen tester, and she's a damn good pen tester. And that's why I say is I don't care what industry you're in. I think that the question that I have, and Jason, you and I just talked about this a lot lately, and so I think you'll have some better ways to phrase it than I would. And that is, it's not your experience and your industry of where you start. It is how interested you are at getting where you're trying to get to.
That's always one of the biggest things, right? Is what do you have passion for? And I think that's really what makes the difference in the long run between somebody who's just okay, I'm doing a job versus someone who's really good at it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's also. I also wanted to throw in, I think that one of the fundamental things that's different about this particular framework is we're also planning on integrating and working very closely with cyber ranges, where if you're in the anti-Siphon cyber range, that's great. If you do Hack the Box, if you do Try Hack Me, working with those various organizations. So that if you look at those organizations, they have actual challenges that map up to these skill roles. And I'm going to get myself in trouble. Going to get shot, but I think that a multiple choice test to actually qualify someone's skills is an absolute waste of time. And I think that that's another thing that we're planning on bringing to the table with this entire thing is like, no, seriously, if you're going to be quote unquote certified, it's not going to be one certification body. It's going to be a number of different things, and it's going to be very heavily focused on hands-on and not the multiple choice question where you pick one of 4 answers and congratulations. You now know who.
Three of those answers are obviously wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I do want to ask one question.
Wait, we got to stop though, because Eduardo asked a question. He said, "Kevin, you said this person talking about the chef is a damn good pen tester. Could you elaborate on?" By the way, I have pen testers that are they come from like, you know, trucking companies. I have pen testers that have worked in food service. I have pen testers that have been, you know, a number of different things. I think that that's an important and I think that narrative is germane to the conversation.
Yes, it absolutely is. It absolutely is.
If we allow people to define what allows entry points into this industry to be either certifications that are like $8,000 or requiring a degree to get into the certification, we're locking off like 90% of the human population.
Let me ask you a
question.
Stepping up and trying. How many of the 4 people whose video is on have a degree?
Oh, I have
2.
So,
okay, then screw you guys.
John, not an Infosec.
This is the part where I'm like, well, one of them is poli-sci. Is that a negative one?
Damn it. I was positive that
Kevin.
John,
Wait. But I'm gonna actually help Kevin on this one. I have no freaking clue what degrees BHIS employees have. None. Like I cannot. There's some of them that I'm paying for their master's degree or they're getting their doctorate. I know them because I'm helping with the educational reimbursement. But as far as like coming through the front door, I don't ever look at their resume and be like, oh, wow, they've got a master's degree.
Wait. Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you look at their resumes?
Okay.
Now
you're getting damn close. Now you're getting I don't look at their resumes.
Me either.
I don't.
I was on site with Jason Wood years ago, and I had always said I don't look at resumes. And I'll skim them or something. And we were on site, and the customer said something, and Jason said, "Oh, I used to work there." And I'm like, "Oh, really? You worked there?" He's like, "Kevin, did you have my resume?" And I'm like, "Did I ever look at it?" Bronwyn, by the way, you're right. I'll elaborate. We started this whole tangent about elaborating for Eduardo,
but I think it's valid because that's the whole reason why this exists is because of people like this. So go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. What does Kathy have? I'm going to out her here. What does Kathy have that I consider a damn good pen tester? Okay, one, and this is going to sound vague, but drive. She absolutely has a goal when she does things, and no matter what she's doing, in some way, what she is doing is moving her toward that goal. When it was, I want to be a security person, that's what the goal was. When she's assigned to a pen test, she understands, because that's, we ask our customers when we sell a job, why do you want this pen test? What's the goal for the pen test? She drives forward for that. 2, she is absolutely competent and great at managing her time and her activities. She may go down a rabbit hole, but if she goes down a rabbit hole, she recognizes it quickly and reels herself back in and goes down a different path, right? Which when you're doing pen testing against a network you've never touched before or an application you've never touched before, being able to keep yourself from the ADHD, squirrel, glittery, oh my gosh, what do I do over there? This is going to be awesome. Oh my God, where's the last 12 hours been? Is very, very difficult. She manages that well. And in my opinion, she works for Secure Ideas. If you go to secureideas.com and look at About Us, her name and face is on our website. So she has no ego about what she knows. And she knows a lot. And she has no issue saying, you know what? This is new to me. Let me ask for help.
Yeah,
Let me talk to other people.
I was going to say, she never gets blocked by, oh, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people do. And that can be a tough situation you get into, right? You're trying to learn something new, and especially get into technology, you feel over your head. And then you get this, well, I don't know how to do this thing, or I've never done this thing before. So, you're in that first time doing it sort of situation. But she just pushes past that. It's like, okay, I don't know how to do this. Well, let me go figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's the right attitude.
And let's also, whenever we're talking about it, I've talked with her. She showed a tremendous amount of initiative and self-learning before she even talked to you guys as well.
Yes.
And it wasn't like, and I don't want to rip on people, and I'm going to hurt some people by saying this, but I get people all the time that come up to me like, I want to get into this, and I'm a real hard worker and I'm willing to learn. I hear that all the time. And I'm like, great, what are you doing? Well,
I'm talking to you.
Well, I'm waiting for you to tell me what to do, and juxtapose that with people that are like, I've been doing this on my own. We had one guy that was living off of bug bounty programs with Bug Crowd. Like, he was feeding himself through bug bounty programs and was learning at night what he could do and how he could do it. And that shows that initiative and that drive. And, that's honestly, that willingness to learn and the drive to try to get through problems is the hardest thing to find in this industry, hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it all the time. I'll be out somewhere, people, they'll see the shirt. I like our logo and the Professional Evil, and so I wear it a lot. I'm not biased or anything. And
I still remember, dude. I still remember whenever you came up with the logo and the Professionally Evil thing. Like, in the group that we came from, there were people like, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's like a corporate level thing.
You really want to put that on your business card?
That is the goddamn best logo and best catchphrase in the industry, hands down. And then some of those people turned around years later and basically stole it. And I was just like, oh my God, that's, flattering, right?
Dog of Sinope. I don't know. This is what I hate about
I love this. This is awesome. This is what we love. Like,
I feel bad trying to pronounce this.
Seriously, getting discouraged from security. I made a career change about a year ago from public relations. Now I have a handful of certifications, a little over a year in SOC, and it feels like I have to go back to school to get a second degree just to get SOC 2, and let alone pen testing. I wish you were all the industry standard. So go ahead and take a crack at that, and then I'm going to come around back to Dog of Sinope and answer.
So
I'll give my
answer is you're looking in the wrong places then. If you're only talking to people that are saying you have to have a cyber degree, you're looking in the wrong places. And I agree and understand that that is a large portion of the people you talk to. My recommendation, and I bluntly, everybody on this call can probably help you. What I would start looking at is trying to talk to the people who run the teams. If you were to and I'm a bad example because Jason and I own the damn place. But if you were trying to get a job at Secure Ideas, you would want to talk to us because we know what the team needs. And then what you have is you have a person who is going to go. It's how I got into Bank of America. When I got my job at Bank of America, I will tell you right now, my resume, I don't have a degree. I don't have any professional training. There is no way in heck I would have been a vice president at Bank of America in their audit department if I didn't have somebody who knew me and was pushing on that side to get me in.
Yeah.
So the thing I'm going to say, Dog of Sinope, is, and I'm going to tell you two things. One, you're working on certifications. That's great. I'm going to go back to cyber ranges. Just start hitting the free cyber ranges as much as you can. And you put that at the top of your damn resume. Right at the top.
You show activities.
Sorry. Show action, right? And I already know the Dog of Sinope is already doing a lot of this, by the way. We already know that. The other thing is go back to the Jason Blanchard webcast on job hunting, Banjo Crashland, where he talks about how to find Kevin, how to find Jason, how to find these people, and then basically stalk the hell out of them in LinkedIn.
Don't stalk us. Don't stalk us.
Or better yet, in LinkedIn, he talks about the magical job fairies that exist that are basically recruiting managers who their whole life is to find you. And how you work that out and build your resume. And, also that also ties into what we're talking about here. When you see these jobs that show up, it would be nice if we had a good understanding of what a SOC analyst was, because right now a SOC analyst is somebody that does vulnerability management. They do line incident response. They do network pen testing. They do web app pen testing. It's this absolute insane grab bag of roles that, and honestly, a lot of it, I think, Kevin, I think it comes from the fact that when we came up, we were jacks of all trades. Right?
Yes.
You're doing a web app pen test, then you're doing IR, and then you're flipping around. You're talking about architecture.
Well,
and everybody today,
before it was before we got into security, right? I was a developer at one job. I was an admin at the next job. I ran a help desk in the next one. we did a little bit of everything. And honestly, going back to Kathy, and I want to be clear, I don't think there's anybody on my team that I couldn't say the same things I'm saying about Kathy about, right? Yeah. I'm using her as an example. She's our pen test hire, and she came from an odd career path, right? She had to, Kimberly said this, right? Sounds like hospitality. Yes. We tell people, and don't do it as often anymore, and that's a problem. We tell people when we start interviewing them that consulting as a security consultant will be one of the hardest jobs they ever have. And it's not because people are shooting at us. Nobody's shooting at us if we've done our job right. I qualified. And so
I'm just saying it's a possibility, though.
There's very few things as scary as an 80-year-old security guard with the gun shaking at you. Like, I've got my hands up. Please.
The only thing you're thinking is, I hope he only has one bullet in that gun. Oh God, it's a bit of an old reference.
So oh God, I loved. So, you have to be prepared to do what needs to happen, right? I think that many B-Sides events are great. Many B-Sides events also suck. But I think the key there is talking to people, which is hard for many of us, right? I know that for me, I'm flying to Vegas tomorrow night. I'll be at DEF CON until Sunday, and I am dreading it.
That's funny. I'm going to be there too.
That's so weird.
I did want to throw out Stuart Smiles did say, get out and meet people. And I think that's huge as well. Like, get out and meet people. And like Stuart, okay, let's use DEF CON as an example. There's all these villages, right? There's the red team village, the blue team village, the log village, the SDR village, like the embedded device hacking village. Go to these villages that interest you and just sit at a table and start just like talking to people. Cause you're literally sitting around a big table. There's a bunch of people, just start doing stuff and ask questions and get to know people. Cause I would say a good large percentage of people in the industry that literally got started that way. And just by making connections and talking to people as well.
Yeah. And the cool thing about the villages too, is they don't expect you to know anything going in there.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So there's that full expectation. You're going to have a complete noob sit down at the table who's never done whatever this thing is before and going to start from scratch right there.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, I'll pick on Jason here. Jason got the job at Secure Ideas because he talked to people, right? He took a course from Justin Searle and talked to Justin about what he could do.
And Tim Jones happened to be there too.
Tim Jones happened to be there as well, right? Absolutely. You meet people, you talk to people. And here's the thing. Don't be afraid to say, you know what? I'm looking for a job. How do I get a job with you? How do I get to do what I said to Mike Poore. I'm at dinner with Mike Poore because I had been running an open source project at that time called Base, which he taught in his class, which was weird. He actually had me teach it. That section, and I will point out he still got paid for the day. I did not. And he took a group of us to dinner, and I sat next to him. And at dinner, I said to him, he was like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "When I grow up, I want to drive the monorail at Disney or the ferry." But
is there a chance the tracks could bend? No, sorry, monorail.
But and I said, "I want to do what you do. How do I do that? How do I, right?" And he gave me some advice. I would today. It is also he would give today. But it was take these 3 certifications: GCFA, GCIA, GCIH. Mm-hmm. So I took the IA because I was finishing the class he was with. I then challenged the other 2 certs and passed them, and then Guardians hired me. Yeah. Right. Well, and he said one of the main reasons he hired me was he gave me steps. I followed the steps. It didn't matter if I did them successfully.
I remember when you got hired and they were talking about you at the lunch table. It was like he literally said, "We just hired Kevin. One of the main reasons is he follows directions."
That is exactly right. Because it damn straight wasn't my writing capabilities. My report was actually the example they used in the training
in
program
560
on how to write.
on what a bad report was. I remember that.
So, looking at Eduardo's question there, the question is near the bottom. Would it be fair to say that companies limit their risk appetite based on pieces of paper, as John mentioned, multiple choice exams?
Yeah. Well, look. Okay. All right. So whenever you're a human being and you're navigating things, you're dealing with massive complexity. And ultimately, as a human being, a tremendous amount of our lives is trying to do complexity reduction. We're trying to understand things, and really, we're trying to break things down into smaller segments that we can actually understand. And when you're looking at career fields that exist today, the whole idea of a bachelor's degree and a master's degree and a doctorate was an effort in complexity reduction. So it was creating filters that would actually filter the population so that you would have a higher chance of getting people that have the qualifications that are required for your job. And that worked for a long time because jobs matched up to degrees. Then all hell broke loose in the 90s. Like, it just shattered with the internet, and degrees still haven't caught up. So what stepped in its place were multiple choice tests, where people were like, here's a series of multiple choice tests. And once again, it's an effort at complexity reduction. We're trying to create filters that we want to get a higher percentage of qualified candidates coming in for the job. That didn't work. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. Multiple choice tests didn't work.
It was more effective than phishing testing.
It was more efficient than phishing testing. Yeah, it's better than 25%.
Something like that, yeah.
A little bit better. But what I'm saying, like Eduardo, is whenever you're looking at that, whenever you're trying to get a job, your number one role is complexity reduction for the hiring manager on the other side. How are you going to make it apparent very quickly that you have the skills that are required for that job to be effective? And, you're going to have to cut through the noise of not having a degree. You're going to have to cut through the noise of not having a really expensive certification. Somehow you're going to have to pop that very quickly. And in some ways, you're going to have to get away from just submitting your resume blindly and start a conversation with that person and do it that way. So hopefully that answered the question. That was a long answer, but even this thing that we're talking about here is complexity reduction. We're trying to make things.
And I will say that one of the reasons we keep going down the path of certifications and degrees as the way people look at it is because, bluntly, they have the best marketing, right? I mean, if anybody has gone to a SHRM event, the Society of HR Managers, right? I've spoken at a bunch of them. They're great, right? The HR managers have no concept what B-Sides is. They have no concept what a cyber range is. They have no concept of how to actually judge the skills we use because we don't market it well enough, right? And so it's like the old saying, how many people here remember nobody got fired for buying Big Blue, right?
Yep, the IBM thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why do you have IBM equipment? Because, nobody got fired for buying IBM. That's longer
great marketing by IBM.
Exactly, right? It is absolutely great marketing by IBM. Nobody got fired by hiring that jackhole that has a master. Let me be very clear. I'm gonna use an example that's probably gonna get me sued. Sorry, Jason. Craig Wright. Craig Wright is the perfect example. The man who claims to have invented Bitcoin. He's a lying, plagiaristic asshole. There is no way he invented Bitcoin.
Okay.
For the longest time, Craig claimed he was the most certified person in the world.
Wait, but I'm going to come to Craig's defense. Okay. Number one, I have very rarely ever had dinner with anybody as enjoyable and entertaining as Craig Wright. Like, he's like a cartoon character.
Okay. Cartoon character, I'll agree.
Character. All right?
Yes.
Number one. Number two, he's not an idiot. Number three,
he's not an
idiot.
idiot.
His website, the Cracked, Insecure, and Generally Broken website, it said generally the most certified security professional in the world. And right below that, it said generally overly qualified for any job you would give him. It was clear. It was clear. This man never wanted a job for somebody else ever again. And to Craig's defense, again, he was successful in never working for anyone ever again.
He absolutely was.
So, all right, go ahead.
until the judges keep judging. And, but when you looked at Craig, right? Craig had these certifications. And he himself, like you said, John, he acknowledged himself. He was not the guy you wanted on the keyboard doing something.
Clearly.
Right?
And he exuded that just by talking to him.
Totally, right? This is absolutely what he did. That to me is marketing. We haven't done a good enough job of explaining. And let me be very clear. Okay, yeah, you can go work for, I don't know, name a company, Coalfire. We can go work for Coalfire as a pen tester if we have a degree. But would you rather Coalfire or Black Hills do your pen test? Because I know who I would, right?
And we're using them as a straw company, because So
I'm not making fun of Coalfire. I'm just saying Black Hills is better.
Now, Stuart brought up a great point. Once again, Stuart's been on fire. This address space layout randomization. He said HR says no CISP, no dice, and there's some truth in that, right? But that's part of the reason.
Absolutely truth in that.
But that's why that's why it's so important on us to actually move forward and try to reach out to HR managers and have these conversations. And honestly, I'm not going to rip on the CISSP. I don't think Secure Idea is either, right? But I'm going to pull.
We teach a mentorship program specifically because we think it's a good thing to have.
And honestly, it is one of the most attainable degrees in the industry.
It's trivial to do.
How much is it right now? Is it still $500 or is it?
No, I have no idea we just paid for a person, and I don't know.
I'm going to look it up. CISSP.
I think it's $700. That is stuck in my head.
$699. It's $699, and to this day, that is a smoking good deal for entry into this industry.
And I'll tell you right now,
you guys coming on with your class, your class that's coming in, that is a huge gateway drug for people to get into this industry. So
it's like
CISSP, we can rip on it all the time, but damn, does that thing have legs?
Here's the best thing I think with the CISP, right? You hit on part of it. It's attainable. The other thing that I think it's great for is I don't have a degree or I don't have this experience. Okay, so it's $699. Thank you, Cole.
Yep, $699.
But if you go in there and say, I passed this test, even if you get the associate of a ISC squared or whatever they call it, because you don't have the 5 years of experience, it shows that you understand something about everything.
We have a lexicon. We have a terminology. We can talk to each other.
Exactly. And that's the important part. I think that's what the CISP gives you, is not this checkbox that you're great at stuff, not this checkbox that you're now an official manager, but you have a lexicon that we can all agree to. We know what these words mean. We know when we talk to each other that we can communicate, right?
So Kimberly Can Fix It said, why do I hear that CISSP, you shouldn't go for it unless you have 4 years, even if you have someone to vouch? And
it's 4 or 5. And the reason it is, I'm sorry.
I was going to say anybody can hit that cap for experience. I mean,
but even if you can't, let's go with the person who can't. Okay. If you take the CISP and you pass it and you don't qualify for the experience, and the experience qualification, look, they let me in. If they let me in, they'll let anybody in, right? We won't talk about all the audits I went through. And
lots of audits.
5 years. 5 years. Paid work experience.
If you don't have the experience, you get what's called the associates of the ISC squared. And it shows that you pass the test, and then you have so much time to get the experience. And then when you get the experience, the test rolls. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not promoting this as the CISP is the be-all, end-all to get in. But it's way easier to get than any of the other requirements. Mm-hmm. And so I personally believe that if you have any experience for it and you can pass the test, I would go get it, because that is a gatekeeping that they do. Was it Stuart that said it? That HR, I want to say it was Stuart, right?
It was Stuart. It was Stuart's mouse. Yep.
And is that HR is going to look at your resume, and if you don't have a CISP on it or something similar, they're like, "Yep, nope, out of here," right? But it's going to give you a leg up on most other people applying for that first job or that second job or whatever.
And I think part of that is because it's focusing on the right things. or at least some of the right things, right? Because it's a, hey, get that common lexicon we talked about, having a broad understanding of all the various different topics, so you're not like stuck in one corner and don't understand anything else. But the other thing is that focus. You just mentioned it. You said it several times. Years of experience, and in this field, experience is going to trump your education pretty much every time. I mean, that's how you get in. You get in with experience, which I know it's chicken and egg problem.
Well, it is. It is absolutely. It is absolutely. So. I like Emma. Back in time, we all had IT dictionaries. Now there's Wikipedia, yet we still need a certificate to be able to communicate.
I want to be very clear. I don't think you need the certification to communicate. I think the certification proves you've paid enough attention to the definition to communicate, right? Yeah. And I'll say that from the perspective of, I go in and talk to people all the time. I still remember one of the pen tests I did under InGuardians. Jay Beal sold it, and he sold it as a network test. And then we got on site, because this was on site, and it was an application, and just an application. And the problem was the client kept talking about the TCP thing they needed tested. Jay thought they meant TCP/IP, felt it was a weird way to say internal network, and scoped it based on that. We can all talk about the problems with this scoping, but it was an internal app that they had built, right? Okay, so the question from Brian is, so you work in a SOC, have no degree, no cert, and limited experience. What cert would you go after as your first certificate? I don't know that the cert is the cert I would go after, but if I wanted to go after a cert, I'd go after the CISP.
I'd go after the CISP.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's
but I think I would go the other way and start what John said earlier about the cyber ranges, about building experience, about doing this kind of stuff. I'll tell you right now, there are open source projects, some of which have been talked about on this stream, that would love somebody to come in and start talking about stuff and helping and contributing. And that turns into resume fodder and ways to get past and ways to network, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. I do know many companies that will prefer somebody with a CISP over a degree. So yes, somebody with just a degree, and part of it's because so many of us know that when we went and did a degree or we look at degree stuff, the degrees many of the degrees don't cover what we do.
And honestly, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the entire university system has not caught up to even IT at the pace that it's changing. There's like a handful of like Dakota State University for security does a good job. And that's the only one I know, really. What is the other one?
I've heard a lot of good things about George Washington University.
Is that it? It's an online one. I can't remember.
I barely made it out of high school. I don't know.
Yeah.
WVU is what it is, but whatever that is. I don't know.
So there are a handful of them that are out there, right? So no, the CISSP is a gateway. And that's one of the reasons why we're super excited about you guys coming on and teaching that for Antisyphon, because we're trying to get as many people into this as possible.
I do want to ask one question. Weishen just said, I love that this training is mostly a pay what you can. What do you mean by mostly a pay what you can? That course is completely pay what you can.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
So I'm not sure what you mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think it's sometimes. So I had someone that got frustrated with my pay what you can class because they said, your cheapest is $25. And I had to show them, no, you got to go to tuition assistance, click here, and now it's $0.
Okay. Yeah.
They sent a long email about how even $30 is really hard. And I totally commiserate and sympathize. $30 for some people is no joke.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Somebody just said, what about the SANS?
What about SANS Masters?
Somebody just asked about the SANS Masters program. And I will tell you that it's a good question. I am biased about SANS. I was a SANS instructor for a while. I think they have some really, really good content. My biggest complaint in answer to that, I admit my bias, is I believe that the SANS Master program is on the ridiculously expensive side. And I don't know if the expense matches the benefit. I don't know. I'm not saying it doesn't.
I'm going to say that I have probably more SANS master's degree people at BHIS than almost any company in the world.
It's probably true.
And I am also going to say, you've arrived in the industry when you get to work at a company that is willing to pay for a SANS certification and pay for SANS training. And my goal would be, if I can get people the intro to get them into the job so that they can do that, goddamn, that's success. That's success. But if you're just getting started, that gate is closed to you. If you do not have that job, that is a wall that you cannot scale on your own. That is not possible.
Somebody did put up that the GI Bill can be used for SANS.
Mm-hmm.
It
is. You can use it. Absolutely. But my point is not our freaking target market, right? Our target market is a lot of the people that are coming into the industry. They're working in small businesses. They're grinding every single day. And those are the people that I think, Kevin, you and I have spent a lot of time talking about. Those are the people that we need to help, because if we're looking at that, that's like over 90% of the people that are trying to secure stuff. Yeah. And me.
Right? I couldn't afford SANS. The only reason I got in was the company I worked for. That one course I took, the company I was working for at the time somehow got a budget for it. Right. Yep. But I had already been running the base project, for 5 years at that point?
Before that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our take. Right. And also Kevin and I have lots of friends that work there. Right. We have lots of friends. But yeah, their pricing model is probably the only thing that's a bit insane. But if you get there and you can get a company that pays for it, then God bless you. Go take advantage of it. Ride that train. Choot as far as you can take it, please. So, all right. So with that, I think it's time to start bringing it on. Kevin, you guys are coming back next week, right? You have some technical things that you're going to drop?
I believe that Jason, isn't it next week that you're showing Parametrizer?
I don't know what date, actually. I hadn't decided yet.
I'm not paramelized, but I might.
Oh my gosh, I want to be very clear right now. And I'm going to say that even if Jason wasn't here, this newest feature is probably the cooking feature I have seen released in a tool lately. It is awesome.
So you need to come back, folks. You need to come back. All right, Ryan, take us out.